probably thinking, okay, all this is great, but how do I tell if it's working? The good news is that both Facebook and CrowdTangle have pretty good tools for figuring out how your content is performing, particularly relative to other pages. So we're going to start with Facebook. Facebook's got a great insights tool. So you're going to come here, and at the top of the page, click on the little bar that says Insights. And this is going to allow you to see a whole bunch of different things. The three that we're most concerned about: page likes, reach, and post engagements. Okay, so page likes just measures the net number of new page likes that you've received over the last week. So you can see for the Patriotic Millionaires, we've received 841 new page likes over the last week. That's actually a pretty slow week for us, and you can see that here by the fact that it's down 47% from the previous week. This is a pretty good way to track the consistency of your page growth and to see how different weeks and different kinds of posts impacts your page growth. The next thing we're concerned with is page reach. For reach, that's going to show you how many different people have been shown some of your content in their newsfeed in some way over the last week. So for us right now, that's about 1.5 million. Again, that's on the lower end for us, but it's a good way to track how far your message is spreading. We like to keep it somewhere in the 1 to 3 million range. But for a smaller page that's just starting out, you're going to want to you're focusing on keeping it more in the 10 to 100,000 range is a pretty good way to start off. The last thing we're concerned with is post engagements. That's how many times your posts have been directly engaged with, that's liked, commented on, shared, or something in the realm of that. We want to keep that in the kind of minimum, at least at the 10% of reach, which tells you that a lot of the people who are seeing your stuff in their timeline are engaging with it in some way. The higher the ratio of that is to reach, the better you're doing. Okay. There's a couple other things, though, that the Insights page can tell you as well. One of the things it can do is show you how your posts are doing compared to each other. This is a pretty cool tool that's going to just next show you which of your posts are the best, and it's going to allow you to understand what kind of posts perform best on your page versus what kind of things don't necessarily do as well. It's a pretty useful tool as you begin to figure out the kind of content you want to be curating for your page. The last thing under Insights that we're concerned about is pages to watch. This is a really nice way of tracking your page relative to other similar pages. So you can see here we've got a pretty big range of the kinds and sizes of pages that we're comparing our page to. We like to be able to compare some of them to similar pages of similar size and similar styles of content, but also have some bigger, more aspirational pages on there. We recommend that you use our page as a good benchmark for one of your pages to watch. And you can also use other campaigns that are nearby that are similar to yours and other progressive pages. These are a few good examples here that we recommend using. That's kind of the general overview for the Facebook Insights page. The other really great resource for measuring how well your page is doing is CrowdTangle. So CrowdTangle has a bunch of different metrics that you can use. The first place is to start with one of your lists. So for us at the PMU starter list, what you're going to do is get to the list and then click over to Leaderboard. And what Leaderboard does is it ranks your page relative to the other pages in the list by the number of interactions you've had over the last week. So as you can see right here, the top one on this list, Occupy Democrats, has had 5.84 million interactions over the last week. That's pretty crazy. You can see here Patriotic Millionaires has had a pretty slow week. We've only had 52,000 interactions. But there are other really good metrics on here as well. One of them is the interaction rate, which shows relative to how many posts you're putting up, how much interaction they're getting. The higher the interaction rate, the better your posts are doing. So we've got a pretty good interaction rate here of 1.15. That means that even though our interactions aren't as high as they necessarily could be, people are still interacting pretty well relative to the number of posts that we're putting out. The other thing that CrowdTangle is really good for in terms of measuring growth and success for your page is their Intelligence tab. So for that, you can click Go to Intelligence, and this lets you take a deeper dive into comparing your page to other pages. So what we're going to do here is we're going to look at the Patriotic Millionaires. And CrowdTangle is going to pretty quickly generate a report of our total interactions over the last 3 months. So you can see here that stays pretty consistently in the range of between 100 and 150,000. But it lets you look at a lot of other things as well, including changes in number of page likes, interaction rates, number of posts, and video views. The other really cool thing that the Intelligence tab allows you to do is to compare your page to other pages. So for example, if we wanted to compare the Patriotic Millionaires to a page like the other 98%, we would just type that in. And the other 98% is a much bigger page than us, so you're going to see it looks pretty different than our page. But you can see the comparative of the number of interactions relative to theirs, as well as the number of page likes relative to theirs. So because they're such a big page, you're not seeing a huge difference. But if we put in another similar page, something like Americans for Tax Fairness, you begin to get a much better idea of how the two compare to each other. So you can see, for Americans for Tax Fairness, it's a much slower growth rate compared to ours. You can do the same thing for interactions, video views, interaction rates, and post counts. So this has been a pretty basic overview of how to use CrowdTangle. Obviously, there's a lot deeper that you can go into this, but I think these are generally the tools that you're going to need to get a sense of how your page is working and how well your posts are performing. If you have any additional questions about metrics, curating content, or creating content, you can feel free to send an email to info@patrioticmillionaires.org.